Shalom. We will have a Torah talk about Parashat Pinhas, which is read this coming Shabbat by all the people, the Jewish people outside the land of Israel, because in the land of Israel we are going to read Parashat Matot. So let's discuss what happened in the beginning of the Parasha of Pinhas. The Torah says, "Vayidaber Hashem el Moshe lemor," and God spoke to Moshe to say, "Pinhas ben Elazar ben Aharon HaKohen, Pinhas the son of Elazar, the son of Aharon HaKohen, Heshiv et chamati me'al bnei Israel." He is one who zealously took up my cause, God says. Pinhas took up the cause of God among the Israel and turned my anger away from them. Which means God was angry at the Jewish people. What happened? As you know, in the previous parasha, we read about Bilam, the prophet of the nations, invited by Balak, the king of Moab, to curse the Jewish people. Now, if we remember the parasha of Balak, we remember also that Bilam did extra efforts to try to curse the Jewish people. It didn't work. He himself admitted that whatever God will put in his mouth, he can say. Otherwise, he cannot do anything. In fact, according to our sages, when he went up the mountain, and he looked upon the tents of the Jewish people, he felt that he is going to curse them, but something happened. Instead of a curse, what came out of his mouth was a superb blessing. Matovu ohalecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Israel. He started to praise the Jewish people to such a point that he concluded by saying, Tamot nafshi im yesharim uti achariti kamohu. He wished that he should die the death of the righteous and that his end should be like them, which means he desired that at the end of his life he should be like the Jewish people. That's nice. He wants to curse them and to destroy them, and yet he admits that the Jewish people is the favorite of God, the chosen nation. He knows that. When he saw that he couldn't curse the Jewish people, he came to the Balak, the king of Moab, and he said to him, we cannot help it. The Jewish people is under the protection of God himself. What you can do is, I can give you an advice. To curse them will not work. To fight them will not work. You cannot do much against them. There is only one way. And he gave his advice to the king of Moab, Balak. And he said to him, well, the nation of Moab has beautiful girls. Let them go into the camp of Israel. Mix them with them. And the Jewish people will sin. Will go together with the daughters of Moab and will sin. When they will sin, then the Jewish people will become frail, will weaken, and the protection of God will be removed from them. And thus, perhaps you can succeed to do something against them. Unfortunately, that's what happened. The daughters of Moab, together with their princess Cosbi, came into the tents of Israel And the sin began, unfortunately, and that was the cause of a plague that befell the Jewish people. But at the time when so many thousands have died from the plague, then the prince of the tribe of Shimon, Zimri the son of Salu, that's the time when he took the princess of Midian, Cosbi, a beautiful one, and he committed an abomination, a sin with her, in front of Moshe and Aaron, who stood there petrified, not knowing what to do. Among the people who watched was Pinhas, the son of Elazar, the son of Aaron HaKohen. When he saw that, he felt he has to do something. Our sages said, against what the Torah seems to be, that he took the law in his hands and he did what he did without asking any advice. That's not true. He did seek the advice of Moshe, and apparently Moshe did allow him to do the following. There is a law that when someone goes with an idol worshipper, a girl that is idol worshipper, when a Jew goes with her, then there is a certain permission, Kannaim pog'im bo. A zealot can have the permission to kill them. Apparently, Pinchas was a zealot. What is the meaning of being a zealot? Kanai, kinekin at Hashem. There are two kinds of zealots. One zealot, when he sees an abomination being committed, then he becomes inflamed with anger, and to satisfy his anger, he goes and commits, let's say, murder. That's not the kind of zealot that to whom our sages allow that they should do such a, they should kill the person who has committed this kind of abomination. But the second kind of zealot is a person, he does not fill up his lungs with anger. He does not go to satisfy his own anger, but rather he is full of love for God, and if that abomination desecrates the name of God, and he feels such love for God that he cannot stay without doing anything, and after he gets permission from the leaders of Israel, then he is allowed, if he is this kind of person, no one else is allowed to commit murder without judgment, that's not justice. But in the case, as we have said, that he has proven himself to be a lover of God, that he cannot tolerate an abomination and the desecration of that kind, then apparently he is allowed to do that. Our sages said in the Talmud in Masechet Sanhedrin that still, in the opinion of the sages, this should not be the way. There should be another way. Jews are not people who kill, they are not people who murder. If there is a definite necessity for that, then there is law. You go by the law. Here apparently Pinchas, when he saw that the people are dying because of the plague, at the same time he sees the abomination committed by Zimri ben Salu, and after he gets the advice, according to some commentators, of Moshe and Aaron, of course, he took the spear in his hand and he killed both Zimri and Cosbi. He killed them. The tribe of Shimon did not like that because their prince was killed. So they wanted to protest, and they even wanted to hurt Pinchas. Here in the Torah we call him not Pinhas. The usual name is Pinhas. But here it says there is a Yud, an additional Yud. And the Yud was put between Pe and Nun, and that gave the Gematria, the numerical value of Pinhas. With the Yud it becomes Pinhas, and the numerical value is 208, which is exactly the same numerical value as Yitzchak. Why is it so important? Let me explain that. You see, it was difficult to understand how is it possible that the grandson of Aharon, who always looked for peaceful ways, a man endowed with the measure of kindness. So the grandson usually is the same. What led him to do that? To go and murder and kill Zimri ben Salu and Cosby because they have sinned. For that you need a special power, a special courage. Where did he find that kind of enthusiastic approach that concluded with the death of Zimri ben Salu? And so that's why the Torah added the Yud in Pinchas, giving him the numerical value which is equal to Yitzchak. Yitzchak is also 208. Yud is 10, Tzaddik is 90, that's 100. Then Chet is 8, that's 108. And then Kuf of Yitzchak is another 100. Together it's 208. Exactly like Pinchas with a Yud. Which means, and it is known in Kabbalah, that Yitzchak is Midata Gevura. You see, Abraham, for example, our father Abraham was Midata Chesed, the measure of kindness. But Yitzchak was the measure of strength, justice, harsh justice. That's what we call Midata Din. So now, Pinchas, by giving him, by the Torah giving him another Yud, giving him that kind of number, 208, he becomes like Yitzchak. And that's the source where he found the courage to go and do what he did. The Talmud says, "En da'at chachamim nocha himenu." The sages were not happy about that. Especially that this caused almost a revolution against Pinchas, and he was in danger. But then God proclaimed the following. He said, Pinchas, the son of Elazar, the son of Aaron HaKohen, he calmed my anger. Bekan'o et kin'ati betocham. He was a zealot for my sake, because of his love for me. Velo chiliti et bnei Israel bekin'ati. And because of him I did not exterminate the Jewish people. Lachen emor. So God says to Moshe, go and declare, Hineni noten lo et beriti shalom. I'm giving him my covenant of peace, which means I'm giving him my personal protection. Our sages said, then Pinchas became Eliyahu Navi, the prophet Eliyahu. So now we understand that Eliyahu, the prophet, was also a Kohen, because Pinchas was a Kohen. The real understanding of giving him the covenant of peace, it means that he became forever a priest. I mean, his progeny forever and ever will always be Kohanim, priests. But at the same time, this permitted Pinchas to do that act without being punished, because he has the full protection of God. We know, for example, in the country of Israel, there is something that is, at least to the opinion of the majority of the Jewish people here in Israel, there are several things that are happening in Israel which are not to our liking. One of them, for example, is the the fact that they allow Shabbat to be desecrated. Of course, democracy has its price. We understand democracy is very dear. But Shabbat is very dear, is sacred to the Jewish people. As we say, there is a saying that says, more than we have kept the Shabbat, Shabbat has kept us, has protected us. If we remove, God forbid, the Shabbat, we have no protection. The Orach Chaim HaKadosh, the holy Orach Chaim, Rabbeinu Chaim ben Attar, says that it is the Shabbat that gives the continuation of another Shabbat and another Shabbat, and because of that the world exists. Remove Shabbat, there is no existence. So those who keep Shabbat, we owe them tremendous gratitude. Instead, unfortunately, they are being attacked and so forth. So we see, because of democracy, we see in some places in Israel declarations against the Shabbat. Very recently we hear about the mayor of Tiberiad, who is defying the authorities, and he wants to reinstate the fact that you could travel on Shabbat, you could use the buses, and so forth and so forth. Well, unfortunately, it's a bad thing for the country of Israel. There is another problem. The problem of Jews who learn Torah all day, the Avrechim and the students of yeshiva. Until today they were not taken to the army, but apparently now there are all kinds of new laws that might endanger this possibility that even the yeshiva students will have to be taken to the army. Now, we must admit that we do understand the majority of this country, the country of Israel, for this kind that they don't like that. Because how is it possible that so many of our youngsters, they go to the army, they fight for us, they fight our enemies, they lose their life, where you have a sizable community of very orthodox people who study day and night instead of going to the army. Some say that in the time of Ben Gurion such a thing was permitted because not too many, we didn't have too many, but today we have hundreds of thousands. That could be by itself an army. By not going to the army, it causes a certain pain from the rest of the Jews who do go to the army. We understand that. What I would like here to convey is, while it is still possible that at least people who study seriously should be left alone, and perhaps some others who are not very serious in learning Torah, perhaps they should be induced to go to the army, and many of them do go. But at the same time we have to understand that matter. It's a matter of faith. If you have faith, if you have emunah, then you know that the Jewish people cannot defend itself just by having an army. How many are we compared to the Arab nations who surround us? If you have faith in God, then you know God protects us, and you know that the Torah that is being studied is our protection. If there was no Torah, there would be no protection for the Jewish people. Our army will not be that much a winner as we know it. But that has to do with emunah, it has to do with faith. If people do not understand this and do not have this kind of faith, then we have to understand them. But at the same time, what do? Let me tell you something that I remember in 1967. A few days after the 6 Days War, I remember I was just a youngster, and people were invited by the masses to go to Binyanei HaUmmah, a very big room, where Moshe Dayan, the general of the army of Israel at the time, was supposed to come and speak to the students, the university students. I went there by curiosity, and the place was full to the rim. You couldn't see much, any kippah, any head cover, maybe one or two. But I remember after Moshe Dayan finished his speech, now this was time for questions. One of the questions was, "Sir, can you tell us why is it that yeshiva students do not go to the army?" This question, of course, raised an applause of at least a few seconds. The answer of Moshe Dayan, who is not a religious man, who is very secular, his answer was, at the time I remember very clearly, he said, "The people who study Torah, they say that we win the wars because of the protection of God, because of those who study Torah." You might laugh at that. There are people who will not believe that, but there are people who believe in that. Now let's assume that they are correct. And so without them we are left without protection. So what should we say? Therefore, we should not take any chances, right? Let them study. That's another kind of army, the army of God, who learns Torah. And we have also the other kind of army, the usual kind. You know what really astonished me? That even though the hall was full completely, 99% of them were secular students of the University of Jerusalem, but the answer of Moshe Dayan brought about an applause that continued for 3 minutes. I will never forget that. Which means at the time, General Moshe Dayan understood that whether you believe or not, don't take chances, because it's possible that they are correct, those who believe. What do we do if we are proven to be wrong? That's the problem. Today maybe it's different, because the Torah students are too many, and some of them might not be considered very honest when it comes to real learning of Torah. So that I don't want to present my opinion. But I would say also, I would agree to leave the yeshiva students alone, and the people who, the Avrechei Kollel, let them study the Torah. Let us live by this faith. What can we lose? For if we remove the Torah, that might become very terrible for the people of Israel. Perhaps even for all the Jews in the world. So that's as far as the Torah is concerned. There is another problem. Another problem in this Jewish country, the land of Israel. To my opinion, it's quite illogical, and I know that the majority of the people of Israel agree with me. This problem with the homosexuals. I mean, it is possible that there are a few. There is a certain minority of homosexuals. We believe, I heard once, that it's only 1% that are born this way. But apparently they say maybe even 10%, maybe 20%, God forbid. But those, some explain that those are products of the easy life of today. Today, thank God, people have money. We have richer people than any time before. When you have a life like this, that is quite easy, people are looking for more kinds of pleasures or orientations. It's possible that this yields to the world people who think that they are homosexuals. I'm not presenting any personal opinion. I just would like to say that, okay, democracy says that leave them alone. No question about it. We are not like the Arabs who kill them, We are not like some other countries who do not want them to operate in any way whatsoever in the open. But we are not doing anything against them. If anybody has this kind of problem, if it is a problem or not, of course it is a problem. It's a sickness. But I'm afraid to even say it. But this is something that has to remain personal. Why is it that they should parade themselves in all the streets of Israel, in every city, and especially in the holy city of Jerusalem? What they are doing is very dangerous, because they are practically suggesting in those minds who might be suggestible, like youngsters who are not homos, but when they see that, who knows, they might be affected. I protest that there should be permission given for this kind of parade. It is not necessary. Nobody told them anything. We don't go against them. There is nothing. We don't say that it is wrong. Of course, the Torah forbids it. It's called an abomination, to'eva. But what is more than this kind of abomination is to give it permission to parade. Where? In the city of Jerusalem. But that's a desecration of the holiness and of all the history of the Jewish people. It's enough that the Torah forbids that. But at the same time, we didn't do anything against them. We didn't take them to prison or do anything that's worse. So leave us alone. Don't parade. Well, if democracy allows that to be, they should know that this brings a serious, dangerous situation to the country of Israel. It is true that we have a belief that maybe God now, after we went through 2,000 years of persecutions culminating with the Holocaust, maybe now all we wait for is the coming of the Mashiach. But who knows? The anger of God can do much. Look what happened in the story of Pinhas. So, 2 years ago, when a zealot, a Hasid, Jew, when he saw that parade, he took a knife, and whether he meant it or not, I don't know, but he killed a young girl who was parading with the rest of those people. Of course, he's going to spend the rest of his life in prison. And I am not here to give any definition to this kind of justice or not. The point is that, of course, he shouldn't have done it. Of course, we do not allow such a thing to happen. Jews do not kill. And as I have explained in the very beginning, there are two kinds of zealots. A zealot that does it because of his own anger, and to satisfy his anger he commits murder. That's not the zealot that to whom our sages allow to do such a thing, if there is such a thing. But a zealot who is committed by the law of God and the love for God, then maybe in the old time such a thing was permitted to very minimal number of people, zealots. But where can you find people like this? We are all angered by that. I mean, all those people who are not homos are angered by this terrible injustice committed against the people who are not. And that's the majority. But democracy apparently prevails. But there must be a limit to everything, even to democracy. Because this might be a dangerous matter for the nation of Israel. Now you might say, you don't believe in that. Remember the words of Moshe Dayan. What do you know? There is 50% of Jews who believe, 50% of Jews who do not believe. You want to take a chance? Why taking a chance when it's not necessary? Nobody went against them. Nobody was aggressive against them. We are not Arabs, as I said. Why permit such a thing? To my humble opinion, it looks like a big mistake on our part in Eretz Israel. I hope that the Almighty God והוא רחום יכפר עוון ולא ישחית, והרבה להשיב אפו ולא יעיר כל חמתו. That's a prayer that we say every night before we begin the prayer of Arvit, which means God is compassionate, and He so many times, untold number of times, that He does calm Himself down, and He doesn't let His anger go all the way. ולא יעיר כל חמתו. He does not awaken His anger totally. So we hope that today also God will understand us, perhaps, and will not use His anger against us, at least till the time when the Mashiach comes, and He will save us from all these kind of contaminations, abominations. Twisting justice to such a point is just intolerable. Let's hope for the best. Amen. This is what I would like to suggest for Parashat Pinhas. Shabbat Shalom, my friends.